Right, here's another story, and it's about when we were little. Know the way the tooth fairy comes and he takes your tooth and he leaves you some money, Eppie?
Still here.
Right? And you know what he does? Years ago, there was one tooth fairy and he had an awful problem with farting, right? And
A bit like Rory.
yeah, a bit like Rory.
Excuse me, I'm deaf.
Yeah? And you know what he would do?
A pity.
You'd go to bed and you'd leave your tooth under the pillow and you'd be there going to sleep and you'd be trying to keep yourself awake, but you just eventually just fall asleep and you'd be asleep. And next minute, the window would kind of open up a little bit and in would come your man. And the thing was, he was awful nervous. He had an awful problem with his nerves. And he'd come in and he'd put his hand under your pillow and he was nervous. And he'd put in, he'd start feeling around for your tooth. And knowing the person would move or turn a little bit, he'd get nervous even more. And what happened was, if he turned a little bit tall, he'd get real nervous and he'd start to fart. And that was the worst thing that could happen, because when he'd fart, Eppie, right, you'd wake up with a bad smell and you'd go,
Eppie.
you'd go, what's that smell? And your man would...
Nellie.
Your man would leg it out the window and he'd never come back, and you'd wake up the next day, right, and your tooth would still be there, and you'd cry to your mammy and daddy, where's me tooth? So your mammy and daddy then would have to phone up the fairies, the head of the fairies, and they'd say, listen lads, you sent around someone last night and didn't take the tooth. And they go, oh, that's the farting fairy, right? But you know what happened to him in the end, right? He used to do it the whole time. He called someone's house just as he was going to get a tooth, he'd get nervous and he'd fart. So they had to come up with I'm making this bit up now. They had to come up with a way that basically they were short on fairies, but they still had to keep him, and they couldn't get rid of him. You see, he was in the unions and he had his job all signed up, and they couldn't get rid of him. How did they get rid of him? How did they train him, Nellie, to stop farting?
I don't know. Talking about farting fairy, I need to fart. They push him. They put him in this room, and they make him nervous and nervous and nervous, and he continued to fart and fart and fart, and in the end he died because of his own farts. Roy the fart fairy. Yeah, I farted like 3 times.
Do you know what they did? Do you know
what?
what they had to do? They came up with this thing, because fairies are very clever, and it was basically like a child's nappy. And on the nappy on the legs part, it was all double-sided sellotape, and they put it around his legs and then around his waist. And when he would fart, right, the smell couldn't get out. And inside in the nappy was this extractor fan, right? And this extractor fan was able to take his farts and then turn them into kind of fresh air. And it was really, really clever. I was on Dragons then. There was a kind of the fart extractor, it was called. And that's what happened. The fairy, they invented that. And your man actually still goes around this time.
Wearing a diaper.
Yeah.
Wearing a diaper.
Wearing a nappy, yeah.
You still wear diapers.
Nappy. You still wear nappies, Rory, do you?
No, I don't. Yeah,
You do? Yeah, farting fairy up there, is he?
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be... That's a true story as well. Isn't that a true story, Eppie?
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that story, Rory?
No. Still no.
Still no. That's okay. You don't have to believe everything, lads.
I don't.
Oh.
Well, I believe that you should shut up. Yeah, and how can let this human a money ring a fairy?
You ring up a number, you go to the internet, you type in Tooth Fairy, and the Tooth Fairies are in Ireland. They're a small branch. The real fairies are Irish.
I know you put like toothfairy.ie www.toothfairyheadquarters.ie.
That's exactly what you do.